All right, so one is, I better put this out an announcement as well. It's time for us to have a test. So, Justin. So we need to, you need to let me know when you have other major exams coming up. Won't be this week, maybe sometime starting like next week, like probably Thursday or maybe the following Tuesday or something like that. We should have an exam. And you'll want to let me know if you have any other major exams on those days so I can try to keep it away from them. So the test will be spread out over 2 days. And cover most of the material that was seen. I have to figure out exactly where it stops. Like today's stuff is definitely not on it, but maybe not even, I know there's some file reading. So like 7 is definitely sort of on it, and 9's definitely not on it, and I have to make up my mind about 8. So that's where things stand in terms of what the material is for the test. And it will be a 2-day test. And so I'll just stretch the material over 2 apps that you'll have to make. So you'll be writing code. I'll give you a scenario. You'll write code. You'll be able to use all the apps you already wrote, like my code, your code, whatever you find on the internet. Gonna have to, online guys, you're gonna have to come in. And that's it. So at this stage, your job is to let me know when you have major exams, so I don't try to put you on the same day as a Tyler Redmond, McCooey exam, or what have you. Okay. The new homework, these are old tests. So basically, it's going to be like a lab. The test is going to be like a lab. So that like grab some of this lab and some of that lab and put them together. And I'm just stretching it out to 2 days to give you time in case your computer's slow and you're stubborn and won't use the computer in front of you, which is not too slow, but just to give you time to emulate and debug and what have you. We'll spread it out over 2 days. And so these are, this homework is like 2 apps, and they're both old tests from this time period, from test 1 material. And you can tell this one is just a doc. So I'm not giving you any activity main to start with. And so it'll be, that's the one, as I think I've been telling you, there'll be one where you'll have to sort of code the interface from scratch. Not complete scratch, because you'll have at least a picture of it. So you'll know, you won't be sort of deciding what to grab and where to place it. You'll have my example to work from. And then this one, I think I give some interface and some other related files. And so then you'll have to put the pieces together, and this one will focus more on coding. This one will have some points for coding and some points for the design, the layout. And all right. So questions. So that comes, those homeworks are sort of with lab 9, and I said lab 9 is not on the homework, so they're not due, strictly speaking, before the test. But you'd be foolish not to do them before the test if you have the time, because they're essentially practice tests. Questions? Any questions about what the test will be like? Other questions? Some, yes. Say again? No, I never asked multiple choice on coding courses. You're going to code. You're going to do what we do. You're going to write a program that. So let me show you. Let me open these up. Say what?
Does that mean that 1 through 7?
Lab 1 through 7 are going to definitely, I haven't made up my mind about 8. Labs 1 through 7 will be due before, I'm stupid. So I will make them due before midnight on the day of the second half of the test. So you can screw yourself over if you want and do them after the second half of the test that night or something like that. But the test is like the labs, is like the practice labs, is like, you know, and you can use your code. So to not do them before would be pretty silly, but people do it all the time. There's some people who sort of do everything the day I assign it. And there are people who don't do it until they're going to lose points. The homeworks that are from weeks, that those weeks will be due. So, and especially the coding ones, it would make sense to finish off the coding ones. 5 is not due. What I just assigned this week will not be due, but it's a practice test. I'm telling you, it's a practice test. So here's like half of a test. Some radio buttons, an edit text, a button, lots of toast this out and make sure they click that and clear it out, and no multiple choice, no definitions. I don't do that. And the other one has some resources. But here's the doc. So there are some pictures, there are some text files, all sorts of good stuff. I give you an XML. This is an old XML. So when you put it into a new, it is a constraint layout. It's not that old. But if you put it into a new Android Studio, it's going to complain about things being sort of outdated. And I'll make up a new test and give you a new XML, so that won't happen to too much extent on the test. But here is a spinner. I always want to call it a drop down because I'm a JavaScript guy. So there's the spinner, there's information, you change the name of the restaurant, you change the information, you change the picture. Here's a file you're reading on the fly based on their spinner. So there's text reading, here's a slider, you know, everything but the kitchen sink from the first part of the test, from the material. Again, I haven't made up my mind about 8, but definitely 1 through 7, and definitely not 9. Other questions? Then I'll have to come and stand next to you to hear. Yes, no, maybe. You're the one who has to take the test. We should. It's going to be a scenario. Write a program such that it's very much like these homework 5. So definitely worth your doing homework 5 before the test. You can use all your old labs. You can use all my example code, anything you find on the internet. All right, so I just have one example program today, and then you do something that's pretty much like it. Okay. So horse racing. So this time I zipped up from Maine on down. So you can, that's a possible approach. Usually I say, send me the files you explicitly edited. And that's a reasonable way to work. Somebody's trying to send me everything or a lot of things, so it takes 2 minutes to download and then 2 more minutes to unzip. And by then I already hate you. So, but this, if you dig down in far enough and get to Maine, that's usually small enough. Still a few hundred, you know, it's not teeny tiny, but it's mostly where our action is. There's the Java, there are the resources. Here's the Android XML. And let me make my new horse racing app. I'm starting something new. So I'm going, and I'm working in the computer lab, so I'm going to have to change the Gradle. That's another thing about the test. I suggest you get here like some minutes early, 5 minutes early, get Android Studio up, get a hello world up and ready to go. So you're not losing time there like I am right now. Module, Gradle, 30, 30, 30, sync. And again, so online guys, you have to be here. You can use a laptop, you can use a computer in front of you, you can use both. When you send me stuff, you have to actually send me stuff, especially on a test. I do not accept shares. You can't share things with me. You have to send me an honest to God attachment. Okay, so it's done with the Gradle and resources. What do we have? I did something to the Android manifest and then commented it out, but I'll show it to you. I'm going to have a new intent, and that intent is going to go to YouTube. So it's not this app itself that's using the internet more, it's going over to YouTube, and then that's accessing the internet or something, but I didn't need permission for the I didn't need the internet permission. It would work without it. But just sort of, there are things later where we're going to use things from the internet and we will need to give it permission. So just out of, I don't know, completeness or something, I don't know. Just anticipation of things we'll need later. How about that? That makes more sense. I'm saying here is, if I needed permission, I commented out because I don't think I need the permission, but if I needed the permission, here's how you give your app permission to access the internet. Okay. So what else do I need to do to put together this? Why is it behind everything? All right. What are my resources? Here's my layout. Here's my activity main. Paste that in. Control A, control copy. And layout, code. Paste it in. Okay. It's red here because it's looking for a drawable resource, and I haven't put in my drawable resources yet. Okay, what else do I need? That was the layout. Here are my drawables. These are what are called the silks, the pictures of what the jockeys wear. So that is a drawable resource. Pasting in the drawable resources. And we know that our drawable resources have to obey the naming scheme of no spaces, small letters, underscores. So here's Seattle Slew with an underscore, Mano War underscores. Okay, so small letters, underscores, numbers are allowed. So I don't have any here. Okay. What else do I need? So that was the layout, that was the drawable. I have a raw. Let me make a raw. So I want under res for resources, new directory. I'm calling it raw. There's my raw directory down there. And then here's, I'm reading a JSON file. Ooh, I love JSON. So then right click and put that, paste that as the JSON resource. And do I have anything else I need here in resources? I don't think I have any values here, but let's look. Just the name of the app, that's already there. I haven't played with themes or colors. Okay. I don't know what values night is. It's more theme stuff. Okay. All right. So now I need, what do I need now? The actual code. And so I have a main activity KT. Copy that. And that's going to go up here. Ooh, I'm not going to copy it like that. I'm going to open it in Notepad. Copy everything but the package and paste everything but the package. Okay. So let's see what this thing does. It's going to be one of my usual things. There's going to be a spinner where you're going to pick a horse. It's going to show you information about a horse. There's the old dog one, but now we have a horse coming up. And it's also going to be allow you to hop over to YouTube and watch a video about the horse. This is old data, so all the latest horses that won the Triple Crown and yada yada are not here. So choose a horse. Number one at this stage was Secretariat. Here's affirmed. Its sire was exclusive native. Its trainer was El Barrera. Here's the silks for that horse. And if I say show clips, this should show me a YouTube video about the horse named Affirm. And there's my video after the ad, of course. Here is a video about Affirmed. Now, nice thing to go back. Start it again. All right. So that's what we're making. All right. Main activity. Activity main is text view, then says choose a horse. A spinner that will be populated with horses. A text view that tells us who the sire is, who's the horse's parent. Another text view to display that information, a text view that says trainer, another text view that will display the trainer, an image view for those what are called the silks, what the jockey wears, and then the button, and the button takes us over to a different intent. Okay, so that's what's in the layout. Let's look at the raw resource. I have, this is JSON. I teach JSON in almost all my courses, but I don't know if this might be the first time you've had me or the first time you've seen JSON. So JSON is JavaScript object notation. Curly bracket talks about objects, and square brackets talks about arrays. And then you have what's called a name value pair. So I'm starting off, overall, I have an object. That object has a property called horses. That property horses happens to be an array. An array is a set of things. What is a set of? It's a set of objects. So there was a great big object, then there's an array, then that object has a property, and that property is an array, and that array is of objects. And then that object has properties like horse name, which has a value for this particular one of secretariat, horse rank 1, horse rating 9.35, silks, sire, trainer, jockey, YouTube code. So I didn't do anything with rating, and I didn't do anything with the jockey. But there is the information about a horse, then a comma, then another information about another horse. So this is so as the name suggests, this notation comes from JavaScript, but it has become the standard way to sort of send sort of structured data, at least somewhat structured data from one situation to another. So if you're here, we're just going to use it as our data source. But if you got information from a website, if you use an API, then that data will be presented to you either as XML, which is sort of the old format for exchanging data, or as JSON, which is the sort of newer. XML sort of stayed around as like a design thing, but it's not typically used much for sort of data anymore. JavaScript is sort of taken over for data, and a few other data formats. But in terms of APIs and such, JSON seems to be for now the dominant one. Okay. And it doesn't always have to have this format. It's a flexible thing. So one, you have to look at it and see, okay, I'm starting with an object. It's possible for you to start with an array. You can have, right now, there's just an object with one property, which happens to be an array of other objects. But you can have arrays within arrays. You can start off with an array rather than starting off with an object. So there are other things that can happen here. Just to let you know, then it's not always going to be like this, especially when you grab stuff off the internet with an API, you get what you get. Whatever they decided was the format of the data, that's the format of the data, and you have to deal with it. Any questions on JSON? Jason's not on the first test, but absolutely positively on the second. I love Jason. You're going to see Jason probably second on one of the second tests, because there'll be in 2 parts again, and probably again on the third test. I like Jason. What can I say? All right. So that was, so we looked at the activity main, we looked at the JSON resource. The pictures are in drawable resources. They have the appropriate name, as does the raw resource. And now we're ready for main activity. What does that look like? We touched the manifest, though we didn't need to. Okay. Main activity. Okay, a big bunch of imports. Connect interface stuff. There's a text view to show who the horse's parents are, or at least one of the parents. There's a text view to show who the trainer was. There's an image view to display the silks. There's a button to move on over to YouTube to make a new intent. And then there's a spinner to allow the user to change horses. We're reading a file. It happens to be a JSON file, but we're reading a file. So here's our input stream. So it's a raw resource, horse racing. There are other ways to read. I have shown you just the raw resource way of reading files. In one of the tests, in one of the practice tests, there was reading files, so you will read files. If you do it some other way, then you're going to have to tell me, you're going to have to explain to me, say in a comment or something, I did it the other way, I didn't use raw resource, I did it this other way, and this is where I placed my file. You have to, if you're doing a raw resource, then I know where that goes. If you're going to do some other method, then it's on you to explain to me where you put the raw resource. I'm going to reconstruct your project and run it. If it doesn't run, then you're going to lose points. Okay, but here, the raw resource. Okay, so the input stream, going to the resources, opening the raw resource, which happens to be horse racing, which happens to be a JSON file. And we're reading it all at once. So there are things that understand JSON, and so before, JSON doesn't have to be a line-based. Like a CSV file was line-based. There are 2 basic delimiters, like in a CSV file, you have the end of line character, and you have the commas, or you have some other delimiter. I think maybe when I had my dogs, I was using slashes. So in files like that, the lines play a crucial role of separating sort of, like in my case, one dog from the other. In JSON, you're using curly brackets and square brackets. These are sort of designating where one thing begins and where it begins and where it ends. And so it's not as line-based. I've spread it out sort of based on lines to make it a little easier to read, and I probably should have some indenting that would make it even easier to read. But this could be all, like when you pull JSON off the internet, if you use an API, it's probably just all one crazy long line. So JSON's not a line-based thing. So when I'm reading, I'm not worried about lines. So I'm not reading line by line. I'm not reading all the lines into an array. I'm just reading the whole file all at once. And then I'm going to say, oh, by the way, that's JSON, and do the JSON thing to it. So here's me just reading it all. So we're back to our beginning in terms of reading, just read it all and then deal with it. And here I'm saying that horse text is JSON, and so I made a JSON thing out of it. This is where it's important to have looked at the JSON and know what to expect. The JSON starts off as an object. And so over here, I say that text is a JSON object. I would probably be doing an array type thing if it started with the square bracket. If it started with an array, I'd be sort of saying, here's a JSON array, but it's not. It starts as an object. Got to look at the file. Got to know what to expect from the file. Okay. So remember what the file looked like. It starts off with an object, then there's a property, which happens to be an array. So that's what's coming next. Here I have now my object, and I'm saying get from my object an array that has is the property horses. So there's an array, there's a property in there, which is called horses, which happens to be an array. So now I have the array of horses. I'm going to work with a spinner. I want something simple to populate my spinner, which I'm just going to use the rank of the horse and the name of the horse. So that's what this is. Horse rank and name. I'm making just a simple list of array list of the strings. Mutable means then I can, add to it as I go. And so this is for populating the spinner. So I'm looping through my JSON array. I'm grabbing the rank of the horse. So here's my JSON array. Get the object in the ith position. I'm getting the string that has the name. So in JSON, back to the JSON, I have name value pairs. Name value pairs. So this is saying get the string, get the value that has the name horse rank, and get the string, get the value that has the horse name. So go to the array, get the ith object from the array. It has a property called horse rank, get its value. Call it horse rank. And then here's another one, horse name. And then I'm saying, here's a horse name dot and a horse rank dot and a horse name. And I'm making that this thing called horse rank and name. And that's an array, and I'm adding to it. So that brought over here the 1.secretariat, 2.man-o'-war. That array is populating my spinner. And here we are using it to populate the spinner. Here's my array. It's array adapter. This is a code array. So it's not a resource array, it's a code array. I just made it above there in code. And I make a simple spinner with this context with that horse rank and name as my array to populate the spinner. I styled it as a simple drop-down spinner. That gives me a little bit of space between my entries. So if I kept it here, simple spinner item, they'd be closer packed together. And this thing spread them out a bit. Okay. And then here I am populating the spinner. What do I do if they choose a horse? If they don't choose a horse, I don't do anything. If they choose a horse, what do I do? I'm saying my usual toast to say, I know what you chose. I often do that to get myself started, to say like, yes, I have the event and I know what the person chose. So this is often for me more than so much for the user, but the view, when you have a drop down, each of these things is a view, and the view is sort of a more generic thing. And so I cast it as a text view and grab its text and make it a string. And so when I choose a horse, it will say, that's probably hidden down here, it'll say you chose citation. Okay, you chose whatever number citation. I have this method this handler tells me the position of the array, the index. And so I can use my JSON array and get the object of that thing and get the property, which has a name of horse sire, and display it, and get the horse trainer and display it. And then I want to display the image of the silks. And what I have in the silks is just a simple name. Now here I have the underscore, so I don't have to do any string manipulation here. I've already sort of done it. It's already built into my JSON. So if you remember on my dogs, I didn't have anything like this on my dogs. And so if I didn't have this, if I didn't have horse silks as a property, then I'd have to come in here and manipulate man of war, make all the capital letters small letter, get rid of all the weird punctuation, replace my spaces with underscores. I've done things like that before, but instead, this is taking a different approach. This is having a property of the file that's sort of already done that. Okay. So just pointing that out. So here I am getting, so that is the name of the drawable resource. And so I'm going to get, that's a name, I'm looking for an ID. So I'm going to get the ID from the name. I'm going to specifically look in the drawable resources within the package. And then when I have that image view ID, I use it to set the resource. So that changes the silks, that changes the picture. So I'll move to spectacular bid. That's the silks for spectacular bid. Okay. Now I have a button. Here's my handler for the button event. I am going to go to the spinner and get its selected position, find out the position in the dropdown, which is basically an index. So you use pretty much an array to populate the spinner, and then you get out of the spinner an index item. So I'm not getting the item, I'm not getting spectacular bid, I am getting the position of spectacular bid. Spectacular bid was the third horse, which means it's going to be an index of 2. So here I'm getting the index for spectacular bid 2. And then here I'm try to go over to try to do this new intent thing. So I'm getting a YTC. That's just a thing I made up, but it's for YouTube code. So go to the ID. That's that 2 I just got for spectacular bid. I have an array, get the object at that position. You can get the string corresponding to the horse YouTube code. How do I know this? I looked at the file. How do I know it's in the file? I look at the file. Some people try to do these things without looking at the file. Some people think they know what I'm going to do. They think they can read my mind. I can't read my mind, so I don't know how you could read my mind. You have to look at the file. Next time I'll just say YouTube instead of YouTube code, or I might not capitalize YouTube, or I might capitalize you but not to. Who knows what I'm going to do? Look at the goddamn file and see what I did. Don't guess, look, no. All right, and now here's what takes me over to YouTube. I have this new thing called an intent. And if you're sort of going within your own little world, if I'm going over to something I designed, then I'd be going to like a new activity. But since I'm going out onto the web and doing somebody else using somebody else's stuff, it's a new intent. And so here I'm starting a new thing, intent, and I'm using this URL thing. And here's the, when you're watching a YouTube, it's https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=, and then you get the code. So if you're watching anything on YouTube, there's some code. And that was what was in, those codes were what was in the JSON file. So this is where I insert the code based on the horse that the user chose. And we're at the bottom. So that's what I wanted to show you today. You're going to do pretty much the same thing. If you've had me before, you've probably seen all this data. It's just a different interface. So that doesn't say very much. There, I have here, where's the data file? Here's the data file. I have songs. They have a title, The Muffin Man. There's a length of the song. It takes 2 minutes and 7 seconds. There's a picture that goes with the song. There's a YouTube code where you'll have somebody singing the song for you. And then there's a lyric file. And mostly I have the pick and the lyric to be the same, but I just, I don't know if they ever differ, but they don't seem to. So you will make, what will you make? You will make, you will have some place to choose a song. Farmer in the Dell or something, I don't know, some song that looks terrible. And that's a drop down, so they'll be able to pick a song. You'll say the length of the song. And you'll show a picture of the song. And you'll have the lyrics of the song. You'll have, let's say you'll have a button here to go to YouTube. And then you'll show the lyrics of the song so they can sing along, learn to read. Is that all I have? Is that what was in that file? Where's the JSON again? So there was a title that's going in the drop down. There's the length we're displaying. There's a picture you're displaying. There's a YouTube code. You'll go let them hit a button, go to YouTube, and then you'll display the lyrics. I don't know if these songs are long enough. They're just kid songs, but if they're too long, you might want to make the lyric part scroll. Review your lyrics app. Questions, any questions? All right, I'm going to stop recording and run around and answer individual questions.